Okay, good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. Today is Thursday, January 11th. This meeting is taking place in the Pioneer Valley Regional School Library. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:05, and since we are all in person, we don't need to do a roll call attendance, so excellent. Citizens' comments, I don't see any citizens' comments, any citizens here. So I think we're all set to move on to our reports. Student representatives are not attending tonight.
They'll be reporting at the
They're
January
going to
25.
They'll be great. So for chair's report, the only thing is, my apologies. After the last meeting, I was supposed to have sent out more detailed information about the Vermont learning excursion that we were invited to, and I got sick and had family stuff going on, so I didn't do that. So my apologies. So we are still in need. The district is limited to 8 participants. The learning excursion is happening on April 9th through 12th. It's overnight. There will be 3 additional meetings prior to that time. Because we're limited to 8 participants, there is room for 1 school committee member or our superintendent. So in lieu of that, in light of that information, I think that it would be of more benefit to the district to have our superintendent participate, unless a school committee member feels very passionately about attending this opportunity.
Happy to have a school committee member have the spot. And if we don't have someone, I'll take it. But happy to have the school committee go.
So who are the others that are going?
Our 2 student representatives, 2 teachers, high school principal, Kate Mesmer, how many is that? 2 students, 2 teachers, high school principal, Kate Mesmer. Jordan Cummings, because of the environmental education connection.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be something that they will be coming back for us to vote on?
No, it's a learning expedition
Okay.
to learn about how some schools. Yeah, they'll be reporting back, yeah.
Yeah, the expedition is really to visit some schools with some innovative programs and unique programming for students. And they're both small schools, so it is particularly relevant to our situation. So I think it'll be an exciting, very interesting opportunity. But I also feel that it would be a great benefit for our superintendent to have the opportunity to see these programs and to gather information. So,
I'll be in Florida. I might have come.
I know I too was interested, but I don't think I can get the time off from work.
No, I don't want to go. I was just thinking we already have 2 administrators going. So if there was a school committee member who was interested, I just want to make sure that they feel welcome and that.
Absolutely.
No, I know. And that's what you reiterated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
April 9th through 12th. I think the check-in is at 6 p.m. on April 9th, and the programming will be completed by 3 p.m. on the 12th.
Do you want to send the info to school committee?
Yeah, I will send.
It feels awkward to have people.
Yeah, I'll send that information out. I promise. I'm not expecting to get COVID tonight. So, so great. Send to school committee. All right, so I will send that information out. If anyone feels that they would like to participate, please let me know as soon as possible. So great. Superintendent's report.
I'm going to bypass my report because I have a business item regarding my evaluation, so I'll be taking up time talking to them.
Great. Moving on to our Director of Finance. Take it away, Jordan.
Might be a record early start here. I don't know if we want to consult any of the record keepers, but great.
now
So
you
let's
need
get
to
it.
follow this.
Right,
record
continue.
time.
Right, of course. Now I've delayed. Now we're behind record pace. This is like watching those ski races at the Olympics. So in terms of expenditures, not a ton of excitement, but importantly, we're on track below budget for the expenditures. I anticipate to be to be at the end of the year about 2% below the original expenditure budget. So that is good news. In terms of revenue is coming in a little bit less than, not necessarily than anticipated, just it's the same pace, right? We're about halfway through the year, haven't quite received half of the revenue. Part of that's due to payments that have already been approved. We just haven't received yet, for example, for tuition. So I anticipate the revenue catching up to the time that has elapsed so far in the year, and I don't anticipate. I anticipate the revenue budget being accurate, and us collecting the revenue budgeted. No budget transfers, and in terms of the lunch report, good news. We refiled for past months and received approximately $10,000 in additional revenue. So now our total operating loss is a much more reasonable or manageable $8,000 at this point, and in the month of December, even after taking out the refiling, was had an operating profit. So operations seem to be improving there, and the loss has been mitigated by quite a large extent. Any questions?
I do have a question. So I noticed the substitute lines are being used. We're using ESSER funds for that.
Yep.
Planning for future years when we won't have ESSER.
Yes.
I'm sure that's part of the budget process, but
Sure. No,
I'm
very
just
reasonable
curious
question.
about the process.
So during the budget process last year, essentially, what we did is we didn't, there weren't enough one-time items to use up all the ESSER money, so we decided, why don't we make the budget more affordable for the towns this year, FY24, the current year, instead of necessarily dreaming up new one-time use expenses. So, but very astute point, Raina, for sure in this FY25 budget, everything's back on the general fund and is looking good in those respects. As I'm sure everyone excitedly can't wait for more budget hearings, as we'll continue to learn about. But I do anticipate, as I think we've discussed before, us not having as big of the fiscal cliff with ESSER money going away. I'm quite happy with how things are looking at this point. So,
Great.
But good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's I'm not sure how the transportation for homeless transportation is accounted for. That seems to be one of the larger deficits. And is that then reimbursed in some way by the state through federal funds? I'm
Yep.
just wondering.
That-
No,
that-
it's an ongoing, situation and concern.
Yep.
We're trying to help people. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's a good question. That is one of the ones that gets reimbursed at 100% and in the same year. So this spring, we should be seeing our reimbursement from prior fiscal year, and then the following. Once we file our end of the year report for this year, we'd get the reimbursement the following year. So 100% reimbursement on that.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
And this is not quite a finance question, but I don't know what for example, what the line item was last year for the entirety. It's just 13,000. I don't know what the denominator is, and if it's a significant difference, wondering, are we seeing more homeless people in the district, which is what this would sort of indicate, and if so, can we look at that a little bit at some time soon?
Yes. So yes, there is more need now. Certainly, there's very little in the prior fiscal year. This year, there's more instances. I want to hedge bets because obviously, small district. You don't want to make any things that could be identifying characteristics. But yes, there's significantly more need. And some of the needs started last year, and there's quite a bit more this year. So certainly something to look at, and how the district can best support these difficult situations.
And just as a point of clarification, my understanding is that this transportation is also used for students in the district who enter foster care. They're not necessarily just only unhoused families.
McKinney-Vento is specific for unhoused or for people in temporary housing situations. The ESSA transportation is for situations with foster. So
Okay.
so that
All right.
that line,
Great. Good
there
to
hasn't been expenditures this year.
Okay.
And Steve, you had asked about the N, or the, I'm looking at the page 7 of the green expenditure report. It looks like we budgeted 10,000 this year for McKinney-Vento and 10,000 for ESSA. And Jordan is absolutely correct. We're so small that, a change in housing for one family can be expensive fast if it's $300 a day for transportation. And great, happy to do it, just, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no more questions, I guess we'll move on to the transportation contract. So our district was part of a collaborative bid process led by the Franklin Regional Council of Governments. The current transportation contract expires at the end of this school year. So since really the summer, the process started, and now it's all wrapped up. Not surprisingly, Kosmeskis was the successful bidder, and the only bidder. I mean, obviously there's pretty big opportunity costs to come out in this part of the state and start a transportation company, right? You need garages all over the place, et cetera. And we have a long-standing relationship with Kosmeskis, who knows the routes, so lots of positives there. Obviously, the expense is going up significantly. It's something we've budgeted for, been aware of. It's in the budget at the 11% increase, and we will be able to afford that increase, so nothing too troubling there. In future years, the increases will be between 2.5% to 5.5% over the 5-year life of the contract. Given the length of the contract, the motion that I am suggesting for everyone to vote on has a part about approving a 5-year contract as well, because for contracts longer than 3 years, we need special approval. So, 9 other districts, a total of 9 districts, so 8 other districts involved in this procurement process. And, everyone kind of knew a big increase was coming. I'm sure people have read about, during COVID and after, the price and compensation of hiring bus drivers is one of those things that I think every state's dealing with. So, big jump, and but how it was bid helped mitigate some of that jump. Any questions, please?
Okay, would someone like to make that motion?
I move that we allow the district to enter into a 5-year contract for district pupil transportation and to approve the district transportation contract as presented.
Thank you, Karen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Melissa. Any further discussion?
I think it's really wise to ask for a 5-year contract. I'm glad that you've done that.
Thank you.
Great. We're ready to begin the voting. Or actually, we're in person, so all in favor? Aye. No opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. And I guess we should thank our yes,
Yeah,
FERCog,
thank you.
exactly, and Andrea
FERCog, what a great organization.
Yeah.
and Andrea Woods, who this was like one of her last acts is
no.
in going into retirement, but she's former teacher here, and children went to PVRSD, so yes,
Nice.
and so they've brought on a new procurement person. But this was this will go down in history, one of her last great acts. So we were lucky to benefit, and I'm sure they'll have someone great to replace her.
Great.
All right. So next up is the disposal of surplus property. We have an unneeded meat slicer at BES.
That photo.
Very Fargo-like.
Frozen.
It's a tough machine. It's very hard to have positive thoughts when looking at that machine. I agree, Steve. It's dangerous. So let's get rid of it. I think that's a good idea. And importantly, it was already replaced with a new piece of machinery, and so now it's just figuratively collecting dust there, and we just like to get it out of there. Any questions?
No. Great. Someone like to make a motion?
I'd be grateful to make this motion.
Would only be fitting.
I only make meat slicer motion. I move that school committee approves disposal of the broken meat slicer equipment through disposal with a waste management service.
I'll second that.
Excellent. All right. All in favor? Aye. No opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our friendly scrap pile can get that.
No pictures of the wrestling mats.
Yes, I they're not as photogenic. Nothing against wrestling mats, but they are not quite as photogenic as a meat slicer. As inanimate objects go. So we have, the district no longer has an active wrestling program, but we have 3 sets. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Steve is
Illustration.
I'm sure Miss Keir could probably do a ranking in comparison to student work. Very good. Probably will get a sticker at the end of the meeting. So we no longer have an active wrestling program, but we have 3 wrestling mats. They do take up a lot of space. They're cumbersome and extremely heavy to move. We thought about some other options, but realistically, wherever you put them, a lot of the time they're in the way. And so we've identified some potential partner schools that do have active wrestling programs and might be interested in the mats. So we're going to research that further. But as part of the process of revitalizing the auxiliary gym, what it's no longer going to be is a storage container. It's going to be an active, vibrant space and not have surplus items stored any longer if this motion is in fact approved. So any questions?
I will make a motion to approve the disposal of surplus property from the auxiliary gymnasium, either through the sale to another school or disposal through a waste management company.
Second.
Great. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next item is a request to approve Stephanie Bassett-Fox, also known as Taffy, as the assistant treasurer and bank signatory. So Scott Adams, our treasurer, generally has an assistant or backup treasurer who has the same powers and abilities that he does in terms of the bank accounts. Previously, when she was in the role, Joanne Wallace was the assistant treasurer and had these responsibilities and ability to be the signatory for bank accounts, because as you can imagine, some weeks Scott may be on vacation, ill, and we still need to do things like process payroll. So we want to make sure that we have someone endowed with these important powers. And so the bank has requested a formal vote by the school committee to pass those powers on to our new executive assistant, to the superintendent and school committee. So any questions about that? Yes.
I have. I'm just a little concerned. Wouldn't you have a new employee complete their probationary period before you have them sign bank accounts?
It's not a guarantee. I guess a couple things. It's not a guarantee that this will happen in the short term. Like, it's fairly infrequent occurrence that Joanne was using those powers, but it's important to have them in place in the event that, for example, hopefully the very unlikely event that Scott was in any way unavailable or incapacitated, because otherwise, we wouldn't be able to, for example, pay any bills or process payroll. Certainly, we hope to not use this very often. And then, in terms of so I think that's the best
But
answer.
once you sign the bank papers, it's a done deal. Because doesn't she have to sign the papers for the bank?
Right, yes, she would then
Yeah.
have to, and would have the ability to do so, but she doesn't do it regularly.
No, I understand. I'm just,
Mhm.
you just never know how a new employee may turn out. And it's just a concern I have. We should have policies around this, I would think.
I would say that the position that we have hired Taffy for would have included this. All of the position that we hired her for includes her to have these same roles that Joanne had. So I would think that even though there is a probationary period, that she still needs to have access to the role of being able to sign these, because that was the position that we hired her for, and this would be part of the job.
But there's still caution.
Of course, I'm
that
just
we
saying this
have
isn't
to-
a new. This
yeah.
isn't a new added job description, or not a job description, but something that the former position didn't do.
I'm not sure how long the probationary period is, but if it helped, you could have some sort of small addendum, like during the probationary period, the signature would have to be confirmed with the superintendent or the director of finance, if needed.
And those powers, if she doesn't have carte blanche, it's only in the absence of the treasurer. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
So if the treasurer is not able to fulfill their duties, then she has this power, but she does not have that power otherwise.
And as a procedural matter, we could certainly, during the probationary period, not allow her to exercise these powers without written permission from school committee, for example.
Yeah, I think someone should know, and be this second signatory or have something in writing.
Jordan, what does it mean that Taffy will be bonded?
Well, so we'll be purchasing essentially insurance. So she'll be a bonded employee similar to the treasurer. So those are the only two people. Off the top of my head, I don't have the specifics of the policy.
No, I know about bonding. We have to bond many people in towns, so.
I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, so Michelle, what does, this is a genuine question. So does bonding mean, is that the district essentially purchases insurance in case that bonded employee makes a mistake?
No, in case they, yeah.
Nefarious.
Yeah.
Okay, so if
You
there's,
can collect on a bond if a person, you would get rid of that person, believe me, and
Sure.
then go after the insurance company to collect the money that they
Yep.
stole, essentially, is what you would do.
so would Taffy will be bonded immediately? Is that,
Well, I wouldn't say immediately. Right. I mean, we'll have to speak with our insurance agent and confirm the exact date. But we could,
Do you know if she's bonded now?
with her current district,
Yeah.
I do not think she is with her current district.
not for her current role, but
Sorry, well,
she
she's-
actually asked
I
me
guess her
about
current
bonding.
district is here. Yeah.
When we
Okay.
talked about the assistant,
Right.
she said, I'm going to be bonded, correct? And I said, yes.
Because
would-
not, you have to apply for a bond. Not all people get approved.
So I would
so
imagine
that's-
given that she's had this role in the past,
Mm-hmm.
that she has been bonded in the past. Happy to add some language around,
Yeah.
the first 90 days. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pending successful
Yeah.
bonding.
She would know if she's bonded. I would just ask her, do you have a bond right now?
Karen?
And
Okay, thank you. I think given that it may not even be necessary to utilize this power at this time, and that we're pursuing possible backups for it, and the fact that our fiscal overseer says we need to do this, that we shouldn't delay.
Sylvia, did
Yeah,
you?
it's a thing. Yeah.
so what I was going to say was I think we just need to be explicit with I think if we do draft language, it's the position going forward. I mean, hopefully we don't have multiple people in the position, but just so it's not just like a personal thing, it's just a
Right.
Right.
positional thing where if
Yes.
we want this person, we want to make sure that they're confident and we're confident in them. So just kind of more of a positional structure rather than a personal.
Right.
Just kind of explicit with that.
Yeah, I agree.
And this was an expectation of the role. It was an
Yeah.
expectation that the previous employee had, and it was it was an expectation of the hiring process. So.
Pending successful bond application.
What does that do for you?
With that,
Well, of course, then you've got that interim time where you're stuck.
Yeah.
I'll move the motion, and then let's vote on the motion as it is, and then if we need to amend it, if it fails, then we can go back to it. So I move to remove Joanne Wallace as assistant treasurer and account signatory, and to appoint Stephanie Bassett Fox as the assistant treasurer, and to approve Stephanie Bassett Fox as an authorized signatory on all district bank accounts.
Second.
great, thank you. All right. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. And that motion passes. All right.
The motion passed. And how about, Jordan, let's make sure that we, tomorrow, start the process of finding out how long it would take to get Taffy bonded, and we're going to inform school committee of the next steps in the process. Michelle, I've made a note to check our office procedures manual to make sure that we've got explicit in there for the future how we're going to make this happen.
Okay.
And
For the position.
for the
like Sylvia
yeah, not the
said.
person, for
Yeah.
the position. Yep. Okay, so we're going to update school committee on this.
Great, thank you. All right, so moving on to a selection of the representative to the Collaborative for Educational Services. So just for the public who may be watching, the Collaborative for Educational Services, or also known as CES, invites each member district to have a representative on its board of directors. The previous representative for the Pioneer Valley District was David Young, who is a member of Warwick. And since Warwick has left the district, we need to select a new representative. CES provides educational support programs that address gaps for students with unique needs, in addition to assistance to parents and families. And the services that CES provides help our district meet the needs of many of our students. CES is also coordinates our after-school and before school and after-school care for our elementary students. So we work with them a lot, and they help us a lot. So it would be great to have a member of this committee on their board of directors. Their meetings are currently being held in a hybrid fashion. People are welcome to attend on Zoom or in person in Northampton. I hear from David that they feed you, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still true, but their next board meeting is on January 31st. They'll meet again in March, May, and June before the summer hiatus.
Do you know what the hours are?
They vary.
That's a good,
I did look on their
question.
website and they vary.
okay, they do.
So
Sometimes-
sometimes daytime?
Yeah,
Oh, sometimes daytime?
yeah, I saw one. I saw one that was in the early morning.
I would have loved to have done it, but I can't make that kind of commitment with my
yeah.
employer.
I would volunteer if you don't mind selecting someone who could only do it until November.
I think that would be fair, and then we can select a new representative after November if need be. So yeah, great. All right. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move Karen O'Neill be our new representative. And I flipped the page so you can't see it, to the Collaborative for Educational Services.
I'll second.
Great. Any further discussion? Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Karen.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen. Appreciate
Karen,
it.
CES is a great outfit,
I
you
know. I know.
And Todd Gazda, the current executive director, is warm, smart. They are super entrepreneurial down there. So I will send you and Todd, I'll CC you, Raina, connecting you tomorrow.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right. Great. So our next item agenda, cell phones in school.
So this was aspirational, and we're going to have to pause a little bit. In general, I'd like to bring you a proposed change to policy. Super aspirational would be the February 15th school committee meeting, but it may need to be the first meeting in March. And before that, we will be doing outreach with I'll ask our student council representatives to help with outreach with students in this building. I'm going to ask Principal Sullivan to work with the teacher leaders and do education with students. We've got to get student voice in this conversation, and it's about more than just student voice. This is about education and making sure that our entire community has a baseline understanding of the current research on the impact of social media on student mental health and use of cell phones in schools. We've identified some districts to visit. Our understanding is that the use of yonder pouches is a mixed bag, as it were. Sorry.
That from
It works. It's not perfect. It's not a panacea. But it's looking to me from my outreach that it is kind of one of the options of choice. So expect to see invitations to join a community meeting or two. I will probably be doing a survey at the beginning of the process with staff and at the end of the process with staff because I want their input. We want to take the burden off of individual teachers from having to negotiate this all over the place with kids.
Yep.
It's just, it's too much for everybody. I am heartened. I've been having little bits of conversation with parents and guardians in the community, and so far the reaction has been positive with the idea. We had 3 lockdown drills yesterday in the schools. They went great. When these things happen, there's a team of anywhere from 5 to 10 law enforcement officers who join us from our local police departments, sheriff's office, and the state troopers. And I brought it up with the lead who confirmed, yes, law enforcement actually does not want kids to have cell phones in hand during a safety emergency in a building. They don't want the kids calling out. They don't want the kids on TikTok. They don't want them posting. So I'm going to be talking with them about possibly getting someone from law enforcement here or getting a statement to make clear to our families, because that's one of the concerns I hear. What if there's a horrendous event? So if our safety experts are letting us know it's not preferable to have the kids on phones at that moment, I hope that will allay some family concerns. So expect some outreach from me. And then I hope that I can bring you something, if not at the February 15th meeting for your consideration, the first meeting in March.
I was wondering if maybe not right away, but eventually we could broaden this to share the report that you gave to us and help to educate parents about issues at home. so their kids are more ready to be here.
Yes, agreed. And I'm not able to attend. I forget what other meeting I'm going to, but this is such a hot topic, right? The FBI is co-sponsoring a webinar, I think in the next week. I can't attend, but they very graciously, I asked them to send me all the materials, and they're going to sponsor another one. I've asked to be put on the list. And a couple of their flyers that they shared are suggestions for parents and guardians at home. You know, what steps can you be taking with your kids? So,
Right.
yes, this is about community education. Yeah.
So someone who's had direct experience with children, my own, and phones. So, and also as a health professional. The iPhone came out in 2010. This is not something to discuss now, but I am curious, like, what has happened in 2023 and 2024 that has us wanting to take action quickly? That is an open question. And the second, because the research has been happening throughout, so that there's not been like a bombshell study that I'm aware of. The other question is if there's a sentiment among the teachers, I'd be grateful to know that sentiment and sort of know that we can support their thoughts and hopes for the policy.
Yes. So I agree. We want to hear from our teachers what they're thinking. And very quickly, the reason why I am bringing it up now is, and this is anecdotal. This is not scrutinizing every incident that's happened. It does appear that a large percentage of our disciplinary situations involve social media in one way or another. And anecdotally, we hear from teachers about their struggle with kids pulling phones out during the day. And it is simply interfering with learning and socializing. And then, Steve, the other, so that, it sort of kind of reached a bit of a tipping point for me about a month ago. And then when my team read the Surgeon General's report, which came out in the spring, you know, we could have read it in the spring, that just brought us all up. That just had us think. So, yeah, so I will share information about outreach.
Just I guess the last part is
Yeah.
okay. So as an addendum, if it's possible, since this is a collaboration with families and teachers and our students, there is some very suggestive evidence that mental health for adolescents has been especially affected by sleep deprivation. And our policies here won't really have any impact on that. But perhaps the activities of this policy development can help with the community, knowing that it turns out that kids are sleeping 2 hours less than they did a
That's
decade
right.
ago. And that has all sorts of pretty profound impacts for mental health and ability to learn. So maybe it's just something that just sort of, again, it's not under our control, but if I could go back in time, I would have probably done things differently as a parent.
Yep.
But just to recognize that the time out of school, there are things that happen also that.
Yeah, we have no control. And wouldn't it be great if this process empowered families
Just
to have better, not better, more productive conversations about what phones are doing to all of us. Yeah. So, okay, thanks.
Great. All right. Moving on to our superintendent evaluation
Okay.
update.
All right, you have two documents in front of you. One is a brief memo, and the other is the goals document. So as it says in the memo, all educator evaluations in Massachusetts have two major strands. One is goals, and one is performance against standards. For superintendents, there are 3 required areas for goals: student learning, professional practice, district improvement, and then the 4 standards of professional practice for a superintendent. Any district level administrator are instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. In February of last year, the school committee approved goals that would run from then through the end of this school year. I provided you an update last May. This is my mid-year for this year, so I'll start with the progress towards goals On the page, you can see the ones that are green are fully completed, and then there are others that not yet, and some are partial. I'll start with the student learning goal. This is about helping administrators provide feedback that actually helps teachers improve their practice. Educator evaluation in Massachusetts changed substantially with ed reform in 1993. Interestingly, there's no great research that I know of that suggests that the educator evaluation process is the most powerful lever for improving educator practice. In general, I would say, and Renee, I'm going to ask you to jump in if you've, yay, nay, or for many folks overall in lots of districts, in my experience, the ed-eval process is looked upon as burdensome. Administrators are overwhelmed with the number of educators they have to evaluate. When you start getting 20 people, you have to evaluate. It's really hard to do enough great observations. It's hard to schedule meaningful conversations. Most administrators are never trained in how to enter a debriefing conversation, how to hold the conversation, and how to follow up on that conversation. So my goal is to help every member of the admin team who supervises do better with giving feedback that is helpful. So what's that about, and what has happened so far? So we've cleaned up on the back end. The online system that we use for educator evaluation is called TeachPoint. We've completed a process of, when I came, there were so many documents in TeachPoint that educators and administrators had access to that were duplicates, that were incorrect. They were just frankly incorrectly structured. They were unclear. So we revised everything. And so now there is a small set of accurate, simple documents, right? So when administrators need to pull something up, or teachers do, it is there. They're done. So that's done. During the summer retreat, we had multiple sessions on educator evaluation, and you can link in the document there. I didn't print out everything. And that was really helpful. And we started out by asking the admin team to identify their questions with different aspects around, there's a self-assessment portion of evaluation, there's goal setting. And we used their answers to those questions to guide our conversations. We've looked at video together of teachers in classrooms, because you want to do this, you want to practice these skills in a way that depersonalizes, so it's not about someone the person's working with at first. We identified types of data that can be collected in classroom observations. This is an area that I have some strength in because of my 4 years of training in the Boston Public Schools as a full-time, full-release mentor. So we learned some methods of gathering information around what's happening in a classroom that are very different from what is traditionally taught around educator evaluation. I have done one-on-one conversations with some administrators about how to pick a focus for a debriefing conversation. And then we've done role playing. From my perspective, the most important part, the most productive part of the educator evaluation process is in the meaningful conversation between educator and evaluator that takes place after observations. So we can do the minutia, you can try to check off boxes, but what really moves people is when, after an observation, the evaluator can sit with the educator and share good, accurate information about what was observed, and then have a conversation that really engages the educator to think about this data and the implications for their practice and what they want to try next to improve their practice. I want evaluators to be focusing on that, spending their time preparing for those conversations and documenting those conversations. Because that is what really moves people. So we've done, a bunch of this. We've met. We still have a lot more work to do between the end of January and May in terms of looking at more video with each other. So when I say look at video, the state has all kinds of videos, teachers at different grade levels and different subject areas, and then they've got some documents that go along with it. so in what we've done up until now, I'll ask the administrators to select a data collection method they want to try while watching that video. And so that might be, I'm going on for a long time. Is this interesting or is this not interesting?
Very interesting.
It's okay.
Yes, yes.
So they might be interested in looking at, does the teacher ask open-ended or closed questions, right? They might be looking at wait time. They might want to look at sentence stems. What are the first words in the utterances that the teacher is making? They might be looking at what is the ping pong of speakers in the room? Is it teacher, student, teacher, student, teacher, student? Is it teacher, student, 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 teacher, student, teacher, student, student? Upon whom is the teacher calling in the classroom? Particularly in the younger grades, sometimes it's a physical map of the classroom, and the evaluator wants to mark on the map where the teacher is walking during the 17 minutes and that can be fascinating. So we learn about these different methods, and then before a video, they'll say, I want to try this method. And if that method isn't yielding good results, here's my backup method I'm going to switch to quickly. Because that's real life. You go into a classroom and you think, I'm going to be looking at sentence stems, and then you realize, that's not right. So what am I going to do? Because you got to make use of that time. And then we talk about afterwards, okay, what worked for you about that method? Did you get, and then what did you get? And then what do you want to talk to that teacher about? And then we begin practicing role play. So we're on our way. Lots more work to be done. So would you like to ask questions or about that goal now, or should I? And I'll try to be quicker. Okay. Oh, meetings. Okay, professional practice goal. I have work to do on this. The admin team meets every other week or so, and we're just starting what I'm calling senior leadership meetings with the 3 directors and myself. So those are just starting. Overall, we've got a single agenda document that has the agenda for every meeting. We take notes in it, follow up. We note on the document when tasks have been completed. Where I need to get better is getting the agenda out to people in advance. I need to do a better job of making sure I'm asking several days in advance, what on the agenda, what else needs to be on the agenda. I'm not, and I need to follow up more quickly after the meetings. That's management. That's management. And that's the unsexy part of leadership that really matters. Right? Being effective, following up, getting stuff done. Okay. Where I need to do more is increasing the percentage of our time together at the table that is learning time versus business time. We still seem to have so much business to accomplish as an administrative team that I'm finding it hard to carve out time where we are reading with each other, where we're bringing problems of practice with each other. So I would say over the next 5 months, as part of this, that's something I need to improve on in terms of the meetings that I leave. Yeah, go ahead.
I share your it's common concern in many meetings. I was always struck, Tony Alvarado used to be one of the superintendent of District 2 in New York City, and the way he would do professional development meetings or other, he would put all administrivia is what he called it, at the end.
Yeah.
And really start with anyway, this is not a novel suggestion, but start with what you want to start with. And if you're going to lose time, it's going to be on something that you can can export to another kind of modality. So I was like, that was pretty, I'd like to do that.
No, it's a great idea. I've almost finished a book. It was an airport book on, being a better leader. And I think the basic thesis of it is matching your energy during the day with the most important work that you have. So I've been thinking about that, and that's where we are on that one. District improvement goal are communications. I think we're doing well with communications. We now have 6 newsletters going out across the district. I put some numbers in on this memo document. We haven't had as many sessions where we look at text with each other it's essentially like a graduate writing seminar where we look at text with each other and improve the text. What I have done quite a bit, probably more than most superintendents, I would think, I write with people all the time. People send me drafts, and I either work on it with them or I send stuff back, but we sit in my room, we project onto the wall. So it's not the whole team in the way that I'd hoped that we would be doing repeatedly, but constantly members of admin teams sit with me and work on a piece of text. That could be part of a newsletter. It could be many, many emails. We work hard on our emails. So it's happening. I need to do some surveying with people about, what does our community think about the quality of our communications. So that's a general update on goals. On the memo thing, I put just a few pieces of evidence in terms of my work against the 4 standards. And I put the check marks in those boxes so that you could see at a glance, like, when I share this evidence with you, are there areas in which I'm not paying attention as much, whether it's standard 1, 2, 3, or 4. Facilities master plan, still have so much work to do on, bringing that back to you for conversation. I put in there the text from the facilities master plan webpage because I felt proud of this. The process for developing the facilities master plan will be inclusive and transparent. I believe it was. We communicated all along the way, and we brought in voices all the time. The district planning committee will develop guiding principles, use objective data, and incorporate stakeholder voice, and we did that. And students, parents, guardians, educators, school committee members, district administrators, and town officials will be represented, and they were. And so that's important because we are building a track record of bringing people in, sharing information, and marching projects along. So there was that. The financial improvements in the district, and this is, of course, everything I do is in conjunction with all of the administrators in the district. The district agreement hasn't been fully revised in 24 years. The process has been asked for many years. The subcommittee met again just before this meeting now. We're close. We are close. I am confident that we'll have something to send to the towns this spring, and that's a major accomplishment, and thank you to the District Agreement Subcommittee for their hard work. Communications, I took a look at our readership. So for the district update, we're getting an average of almost 1,500 people reading that newsletter for every edition. Yeah. And that the average now is actually higher than it was when we started out, so that's nice. I took a look at the November, December, what were 3 months? October, November, December. For the 6 newsletters now in distribution, the average combined readership is over 6,500 people a month. That's great, right, for this little district. Onboarding of new administrators, that's a lot of work, so I wanted to put it out there. And I put out this quote from one of the mentors, actually, who's known this district for a long time. And they will be bringing you their entry plan findings next month, our 4 new administrators. Curriculum review, we're actually getting started on that teaching and learning stuff. I met with Kate again today. By the end of the month, she'll have information out. I'm pulling together a team to work on elementary math. We will make something happen. Finally, responsive classroom, that was a big initiative. We got the contract in. We got them in for 4 days. Our next step is I am meeting next week with Kristen Siska, our BCBA consultant who's here part-time, and all of the elementary administrators. We need to map out very clearly how are we making the work of responsive classroom systematic, and how do we support educators, all staff in the elementary buildings. So I wanted to share that. And then just a little one, Forest Lights. We've got a tradition going now. We've got 2 years in. And connected to that, we are hoping to have a winter hike. We wanted to have it next week, but we've postponed it by a few weeks. Might be doing it around the full moon. But we will try to increase the number of outdoor opportunities for families and students to come together and enjoy nature as part of our district. So in the end of the year, I'm going to request help from the Collective Bargaining and Personnel Subcommittee. It would be appropriate for that subcommittee to take a look at the superintendent evaluation process and understand your responsibilities to gather feedback from people. I'll have to do a more formal report in May. So at that, I mean, I'm talking to you now and I'm sharing some stuff, but at that point, you have some work to do in leading the process.
And the members will also need to fill out a rubric.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
A written evaluation.
We're gonna follow the MASC that we did last time?
Yep.
Okay.
The
Desi.
DESI.
Yeah,
So that's why I was asking the.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that would be.
that was my question. So we will be doing it in May?
May, June,
Okay.
yeah, end of the school year, yeah.
Well, it does take a little
Yeah.
bit
Mhm.
to do, so.
I
Karen?
have a question. When I see all this, I see something that is very ambitious, but I also know through your practice that you don't take shortcuts. And so I'm wondering, there's still a lot to do here. If you see any particular priorities among the things that are left to do, if you have identified those, I think we'd be interested.
Yeah. I know I wish that I had more green rows. And I also know, looking at this, and I appreciate the kind words, Karen. This admin team is working super hard to try and move things along. I think the EdEval work is super important. I need to make more time for my people to get to the heart of how do you hold great debriefing conversations? How do you gather data during observations? How do you have great conversations? And how do you follow up in writing? I feel like we're on a good track with communications. Maybe several writing sessions together would make me feel better because I put it down as a goal or as an action step. And then, this is all connected. I would like, priority-wise in terms of the meetings, shifting so that a greater percentage of our time together is learning time rather than business time. That would be the, that would be, thank you for the question. That's a really helpful question. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to say I appreciate the careful onboarding that you've done with the admin team. I think that's made a very big, I think it's making a big difference with the organization and will have a good long-term impact to really get those skills and get that effective leadership.
Thank you.
Really important. And I also want to just say I think that the focus on the evaluation process is really it's so important because it makes it more of a meaningful process rather than a checkbox, something you have to check off and it's another task you have to do. And for it to be a meaningful process that actually helps improve your practice, I think is really important. And it's much more meaningful for the educators and helps them to grow.
Thank you.
So.
Sorry, good. I don't know if I shared this with you. So what we're doing something technically different around educator evaluation, and that is the admin team sits all together. We did it again this summer, and we look at a roster of every educator who needs to be evaluated so every PVREA member. And we identify who the evaluator was the prior year. And there was a really admirable effort among the team to equalize the caseload. And now that we've got a director of teaching and learning, that's a whole new position that is evaluating. So Kate's got, I don't remember how many people, and she has multiple areas of expertise. And it was really, this is gratifying to observe people say, I can take that person. You've got so many, and then some matches, right? Like, maybe that's been a bit of a difficult relationship. Why don't I take that person? And could you please take this person? So we now have a shared spreadsheet that identifies all the educators, what year in the process they're in, who their person is, and those are the kinds of really boring managerial improvements that in the end will be benefits, I hope, for everyone. But I interrupted you, Steve.
Thank you. So I was just struck, and again, the onboarding part, and again, this is different than an administrative onboarding, but also thinking about teacher onboarding or other staff onboarding. I know that's not necessarily the purview here and the purview of the leaders in each building, but I'm grateful for how deliberate we can be in terms of what people's on-ramp is to a new building, a new school, a new district, and this idea that's definitely in the professional culture, box, I think. And so I would just love the idea that this someone's first contact with their work is carefully, thought through. And because I know so many teachers, friends who just, walk in and it's like, you're room 14, good luck. And that's not, that represents some sort of professional culture, but not the kind that really helps people as they get started. So,
yeah, thank you.
Any other comments? Great.
Right,
Well, thank you
for the time.
Thank you very much for all this careful reporting as well. So any other business?
I have a
Not
couple of
anticipating.
things. First of all, I'd like to thank Steve for sending us our retreat follow-up notes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how many of you got to read your emails today. But I hope that in our upcoming agendas, we will have time to work on our goals because it's already been 6 months. So I think that, not to say anything about Steve, I'm just giving you a hard. But I think, the school committee goals need to reflect the students and the student outcomes, and I would like to see more of that. I have been in touch with Matt Sullivan, and on January 24th at 9:15, I will be attending the Student Advisory Committee meeting. If anyone else would like to join me, I told Matt maybe one or two other school committee members besides myself. We don't want to overwhelm the students. He is thinking it's going to be 9:15 to 9:55.
I can be there. I can be there.
Okay, great. I'll let him know, and I'll let the students know. Gretchen?
Great.
Okay, and let me see, what did he say? He will notify the student representatives and have them work on some areas they would like to discuss with us. And I will be in touch with him a week before, just to confirm. So I'm looking forward to that.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Michelle,
Yeah.
just so that I'm aware of what's happening, could you CC me on those emails, please?
Oh, to Matt? Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. I want to write down somewhere. Gretchen and Melissa. So I do have a question, though, about going forward at future school committee meetings, how the committee sees us moving forward with our goals. Committee members, I think we need to start discussing it and get some feedback from everyone. Anyone have any ideas?
I'd imagine having it as a standing agenda item, that's on the, sort of in line
Yeah.
with what you're thinking.
Yep, I am. Okay, thank you.
And I guess along with that, to prevent the silence that may come with that it's sort of, if there are action items that is, a specific member is sort of responsible for, that's identified so they know they're the person to.
Do you want to give a date too, as to?
A date? Yeah. No, certainly,
the
no.
action
Yes, that's 6 months after the event, that things should be done is my usual. No, but to make
No,
sure
that's a
that,
great idea.
that during the meeting, we,
Yeah,
that we, we're ready to discuss something of consequence.
right. Thank you.
I think a good start would be for us all to look at those minutes seriously and see, are there any connections we can make among the different parts of it? So it doesn't seem like, oh, there's 25 things here, how will we ever group them somehow?
I think this sounds like a really good training for MASC to come about establishing our goals. And I think I wasn't there at the retreat, so these notes aren't going to mean too much to me. They won't. But it might be advantageous of us to use MASC, and I don't know if Michelle, you could reach out to them, as vice chair for the goals, and see if we could set up a training or like a seminar of.
Well, we did that.
We did that
She
at
was-
our retreat.
Yeah, we did that. And
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we need to meet and discuss more of what we learned, what the themes were, and where we should go from there. Yeah.
Okay.
What's her?
So you already went through the training.
Tracy Novick was there.
Yeah, so we did some of
We
the
did the
values
training, yeah.
clarification and then began a discussion of where we would, what we feel like we could improve on. But yeah, we
Right. We just need to
didn't,
continue it.
yeah,
No
other
secret codes were passed to us. I mean,
No, but okay, so then this should be on the next agenda.
Yep.
Yeah, as the scribe, very recently, the themes are fairly discrete and clear. Like it isn't. There's a lot of context for what both we're proud about and what our goals are, and it isn't someone sort of. There isn't much of an outlier sort of sentiment. So I think that'll make it much easier to sort of engage with them.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, like, this has been something that I've just haven't found the room for on the agenda, and I take responsibility for some of that. But there've been there's been a lot going on this year, so it's been hard to sort of find the room on the agenda for all of that. So. But moving forward, yes, we can continue that discussion. We will make that a priority.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Subcommittee reports. Budget subcommittee.
Oh, budget subcommittee.
Lot
We
going on
had
there.
a preliminary hearing. It was done remotely because of all the snow that we had up in Leiden. I don't know what you guys had here, but we had 3 inches.
It's wet.
And we had some pretty good attendance. I think there were 10 people total on that remote meeting. We had representatives from Bernardston and Leiden attend. And so we have our next one next week. Yep. Number 2, we're moving along. I have to tell Jordan I've heard some more specifics on the health insurance. We need to up it.
Free next year, I heard. Pitching in.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So,
All
Send
right.
them up to Canada.
I'm working on. I'm going to be the town
Yeah.
doctor. I think.
Yeah. That sounds
School
wonderful.
doctor.
Yeah, right.
There
we go. Sounds good. Yeah, where do I sign up? Does that include school committee members? All right. Policy, any updates?
We are just waiting to solidify a date for our next meeting.
Excellent. All right. Teaching and learning.
I think we're going to go ahead with February 1st. I hope you can come, Sylvia. Everybody else can at that point at 6:30. And finally get an introduction to Kate Messmer.
Great. District agreements and community relations.
As Patricia said, we met earlier, right before this meeting. The first draft has gone to DESE, and they replied with changes that we're still working on. It will probably take one more meeting. It'll go back to DESE. We do have a timeline, and we hope we can keep to that timeline to get it to the towns.
All right.
For upcoming town meetings, yeah.
All right. And collective bargaining and personnel.
So just briefly, as we prepare to enter into negotiations with the PVASP and the PVREA, we had a really great initial meeting with members of PVASP on January 3rd to talk about ground rules. It was a very collaborative and collegial meeting, and we come back to meet on January 16th with both PVASP and PVREA, and I'm looking very, very much forward to it. So that's it.
All right. Thank you. All right.
I just say, what a lot of work is happening in subcommittees,
Yeah.
right? Every group
Yeah,
is
we know.
is working. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Our enrollment update.
You have the enrollment figures. We lost 3 students overall. They are spread out among grades, so I don't see any pattern. I have started getting questions about possible school choice seats for next year. So I'll begin working with the admin team. And I think we will, in advance of bringing you any recommendation, we'll do what we did last year, which was reach out to current school choice families and see if they have any younger siblings they would be hoping to enroll, so we can let you know what grades, how many seats, and in what grades those families were hoping for. Theirs.
Can I ask, did you always do the average daily attendance?
Yes.
Oh, so that, I mean, I don't know, is that like absences and kids that are sick, or?
Yeah, that's attendance.
Yeah, so have you seen a spike recently?
This is,
Trying to figure out the
you are, Michelle, you are hitting a hot topic.
Yeah.
The state is all over the pernicious, persistent issue of chronic absenteeism. Post-COVID, nobody has rebounded completely. The state is actually proposing changes to the accountability system that would greatly increase the weight of attendance on a school and a district's accountability level. That's out for public review right now. I've been getting multiple slides. DESE is showing some pretty compelling graphs that connect higher rates of absenteeism with lower academic performance. So, I've looked at our numbers versus the state's numbers and other local districts. We have more to do. We're not particularly low compared to, but it's not okay. We need to do better. The state has some money around. I think I put in for it, and we may have gotten it.
Good.
We'd got it. I'm not sure what we're going to use the money for to help us with student attendance. I don't know if it's, we hire. I'm not sure.
And I was thinking it was true sickness that is going around.
So there is COVID's definitely going around, this rhino thing. I'm going out on a limb. It appears that possibly some fundamental shift took place through the pandemic, where staying home from school somehow became normal.
More
Yeah,
acceptable.
Really?
Anecdotally, I would say within my family, like I can see with one of my children that school sometimes seems to be an option where I could just choose to stay home and do it remotely. Like, no, that went away a long time ago. That's not an option. But it's he was so young when it happened that it wasn't a expected you go to school all the time, where my older child is. That's the expectation. COVID hit at a very interesting point in his life that school seems to sometimes be an option. Again, this is all completely anecdotal, but
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, it's anecdotal, but they say data is the plural of anecdote.
Yeah.
So, no, the numbers are concerning. Some of it appears to be elements of social anxiety.
Yeah.
And even though thankfully rates of bullying are decreasing nationwide, that also certainly plays a role, and maybe our work with social media, I'm not sure if that will ameliorate things. But as you mentioned, kids form senses of norms very quickly. And it's a lot easier to stay at home sometimes, or feels easier than to go to that school, the school that you're to go to. I do think that I'd be grateful if, I'm not sure how this is happening, but I do think that we have a generational situation here with COVID where I would love to have sort of a district, maybe if it exists, I apologize, a district approach to the fact that a lot of learning was missed. A lot of social time was missed. A lot of acculturation was missed. When Katrina hit New Orleans, the district just canceled that year.
Yeah.
Said, this is so catastrophic. We can't, and the learning that is just going to be so piecemeal. And so I do think that the national and local data are telling us that we should be more deliberate about all the kids that were affected, how they were affected, because it's just going to cycle through the generations that were affected by the pandemic, the cohorts of students. So I hope that gives, I don't know, things you already knew. But absenteeism is a huge deal in many districts. Less so with us, I think, but still very prominent.
yeah. And it was just on the news as a like they were just covering this
Nationwide.
Initiative that you were talking about. The state is with this absenteeism.
Why don't I bring clear, simple information about what our absenteeism rates are, what they've looked like last year, this year in comparison to the state, so that you have the concrete information in front of you.
Possible, Tricia, could it be historical?
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think we have to actually look back 10 years to sort of know,
Yep.
to make a comparison that's...
Yep. So I don't know. This probably won't be for the next meeting because we've got the entry plans and we have a number of things. But how about I'll try it for the, I think February 8th is the meeting. I'll try for that.
And also if DESE has formal guidance on, working with learning and social...
They do have a lot of guidance. Some of that works for us and some doesn't. Sometimes they really target this stuff towards the bigger urban districts. But yes, I will.
Nugget.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, yes, very last quick thing, because we were running so well, and then I started speaking. So this, as you know, this is not really the enrollment report has import that's well beyond this room in the library of Pioneer. And in my reading of the recorder and the Six Town Committee, that a central rationale for voting for a merger was that our population was low and was going to not get bigger and could get lower. And this, again, is not for any sort of decisive question here now, but it's not... What I'm struck by is that we, in January 2024, with 616 students, still have budget version 3.0 coming our way, or 4.0, that is very sound and offers students a lot of opportunity and offers the ability for us to do well better by our staff and teachers, and it's based on 616 kids. And I guess we will have to come to some sort of understanding that, does it matter if our enrollment is X number or Y number in terms of the health and sustainability of the district? As that was a clear concern of the board. And if it turns out that we have structured our budget and finances such that they're viable in a range from X number to Z number, then we really need to know that, because then that question does go away. And I'm not allowed to have any more kids, per my wife, so I will not be contributing to the population of Northfield and anytime soon. Let's not put that in, okay? but I don't, we should know if if entering a merger is contingent on the fact that our population is a certain number. And if it turns out that a baseball team has 9 players and they don't need more players, they do fine with 9, then we should know that. So I would appreciate sort of any sense you have of that in terms of the structure of our budget and its dependence on student enrollment, if that's okay. I know we've made lots of qualitative changes in terms of talking with kids about their needs and hopes that they want from the district, and this is all super. But we also have, we will be having a vote in towns about our future. And again, in my reading, that future had to do with low enrollments. And low is a relative word. So if it's possible to sort of have some sort of way of conceiving of our budget and its elasticity or inelasticity with regard to enrollment, I'd be grateful.
So I just would like to ask another question. So are you saying that you would like Jordan, he's the budget guy, right? To project if we drop to 400 students, what?
I mean,
like a range,
sure,
because we went from 662 September of 22 to 616. So you could say that wouldn't make that much of a difference, but if it dropped by 100, say.
Yeah, I'm not a demographer, but
yeah.
I mean, I think there are certain probabilities here, and I think the probability of another 20 students not being in the district is different than the probability of 100 students.
Right.
That would be some sort of external event might happen. So I think we should be judicious and sort of, I mean, urban districts have similar issues. With bigger numbers in terms of student loss or gain. But yeah, I would say that, yeah, if we had 3 students, I don't think we'd be a viable district. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that. But we could be a viable district at some number that's lower than 616 or higher than 616. And it'd be nice to sort of know what that bandwidth is that we can work with in good faith with the towns and with our students and their families. So, Jordan, no pressure at all, but just some right answers would be great. Yeah.
That's a great question.
And I think the good thing is in our region, right? Massachusetts is not alone in losing population, right?
Yeah.
Like your neighbor to the west, New York State, is doing worse, and upstate New York is vast and empty.
Yeah.
I know from experience, and there's tons of districts our size or smaller, right? I mean, especially when you start getting north of the Thruway, and I think Vermont probably has similar issues, right? Like eventually, like the land is too far apart. You're not going to merge, so you might have a 400 student district, and you probably have dozens of them. I think that there's probably research out there. I think that ultimately, you know, I'm going to do the research off the top of my head. I think ultimately, right, the big variable is right, school committees, school boards, administration, and how they handle these things, right?
Yes, yeah. And also, though, Massachusetts has just been ranked as the #1 state to raise a family based on some pretty objective data.
Yep.
And part of that difficulty, though, are housing prices, though. That is,
Right.
I think, more of a rate limiting step.
Yeah.
And no one in my cohort, certainly our children's cohort, are looking to get a single family house in the Boston metro area or Worcester. It's very
Right.
difficult.
It
And I
is.
think that plays to our advantage in terms of
agree.
stabilizing our population. And so, again, not being a demographer, I certainly have limitations, many limitations. But I do think that without a crystal ball, what could we sort of establish as a likely range of students and a likely way that the budget is tied to that number, if that's okay.
But I think you also have to look at what's going on in the state. The governor just made huge 9C reductions. And a lot of that is going to go against Mass Health.
Yes, yeah.
The cuts. And so, we have to look at the bigger picture.
No, sure.
The
There was a $1
state.
billion tax cut as well,
Yeah.
so.
Yesterday municipalities were told the next 2 years are going to be tough and to budget very conservative. So it's not just our district. It's what's going on in the state and and what we're going to get. We're not going to get any more federal money to Massachusetts. It's what we've used for COVID. So I think that's, that's where other people are coming from. Let's look at the bigger picture. How much reimbursement are we going to get from the state?
Right, but I think, right, but to answer that question, though, I guess my thinking is certain things are dependent upon the number of students, and certain things aren't. Like, you're going to have bathrooms whether you have one student or
Yeah.
600. So,
Yep.
so there, I imagine that there is quite a bit of range in terms of how a budget looks when it comes to student enrollment. And I think we just, if it's okay, if we could get into that a bit, I think it would bring some clarity to the questions that towns are going to have before them and have to answer in a binary way, yes or no.
I think
I hope
they
that-
are looking.
Hope that sounds okay. Yeah.
I think I'm going to piggyback on that. Like, for example, for like the bus transportation, would that cost be higher if we had substantially more children to pick up? Right? Is that where you're going for? Okay.
Yeah, other buses.
Or if we had fewer students,
What that would, yeah.
is there a floor?
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So not complicated at all, Jordan.
Yeah.
Really good, I think, I don't want to say
No,
thought
it-
exercise, but
That was really,
that's great.
that was really,
That would help the districts do multi-year planning,
Yes.
and it would help our towns, yeah.
Yeah.
Super.
Yep.
You said that's really well.
Thank you.
Dr. Martin?
All right. So moving on, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2 and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Teachers Association and support personnel if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, which I do. And we will be returning to open session.
so moved. Second.
All right. And this one we do need to do a roll call vote. So
Melissa Gary, yes.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Michelle Girusso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
and Raina Dastu, yes. And we will be inviting in Anne and Jordan and Patricia.
Yep, thank you.
Karen has it, yeah.
Oh, yes, okay. Are we
Karen's-
back in session?
Okay, yep, we are. Welcome back to open session.
I would like to move that we, as a committee, approve an increase in the cafeteria and custodian substitute hourly pay from $16 per hour to $16.30 per hour.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Takeaway? I guess we can
Nope, we
vote.
can all-
We can, all in favor? Aye. And that looks unanimous, so thank you. All right. So our upcoming meetings, our next full committee meeting is on January 25th at 6 p.m. And subcommittee meetings are coming up. For the public, we have a preliminary budget hearing on the 17th at 6 p.m. And that's it. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
And who would like to second? All in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right.